Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and Batman issue number 98, Joker War, Part 4. This is one of the better Batman issues that I've read in probably a decade. Stick with that. Let's get to talk about who made this comic book. We'll break into this a little bit of the story itself. So, Joker War, Part 4, James Tynion IV is the writer, George Jimenez on art, Tomio Morey on colors, Clayton Cowles doing the letters, Guilhem March and Tomio Morey doing the cover, and Francisco Mattina doing the variant cover. Bill Finger created Batman. Okay, so we have only two sides of this story in this issue being told. There's a little bit of the Catwoman. You could pretty much just ignore that. It's anything that happens in here with Catwoman and Penguin and the Riddler and Scarecrow's in this also, and a couple people in the background. Those people don't matter. It's those three main ones. Catwoman, Riddler, and Penguin. Those three, the ones who, along with the Riddler, or excuse me, with the Joker, had that conversation with the designer, right? So those three are going to be escaping and trying to do something, and she, Selena Kyle, is going to try and make them a freaking millionaire. So, boom, Catwoman, taking care of business. That's what's going to happen in the next issue. As far as this issue, there are only two sides of this. There's the thoughtful stuff, and then there's the action stuff. And they're not done necessarily by the same people until the very end when it all comes together. So, as far as the action in here, we get Harley trying to keep Batman safe in Ivy's area, but Ivy doesn't come to save her. Doesn't come to help her out when Punchline shows up. Again, this is Harley versus Punchline Part 2. This was not the greatest fight that I've ever seen, and I don't want to see the greatest fight I've ever seen between these two right away. I want to see some wild, crazy stuff, and then I want to see, Harley get a little bit of an advantage this time as opposed to Punchline, who got the advantage last time. I want these two to be very evenly matched until you actually have to have a really big showdown between the two, if that necessarily ever has to happen. I want to see just these two being fairly well matched. They're both a little bit loco en la cabeza, right? But for different reasons and in different ways. There's also a reference to the Joker 80th anniversary issue earlier, which, cool, I dig on that. I like when they do that, the origin of Punchline. As far as the thoughtful stuff, this is where you get Batman talking to Alfred. Let me tell you something. I think that anybody who's a Batman fan loves Alfred. You can't not love Alfred. Alfred is that surrogate father, right? Listen, something important about men, and if you're a woman and you're listening to this, understand this. Some of the most well-rounded and best adjusted men that you're ever going to find is somebody with two dads. No, that doesn't mean a father and no mother. No. It's not what I mean at all. Rather, there's the father that you're born to, and the mother, of course. And we get our advice and our self-esteem from our fathers, right? And if you have your father in life, that gives you a clear and distinct advantage in life. But that emotional aspect, so many young boys who wind up rebelling against their parents in some of the worst ways imaginable only have a mother or a father or a mother and father. But if you have a second father figure, that's when suddenly you're in a much better place in your life because there's a balance. You can see that it's not just this way and that's the only way. It doesn't matter if you got the greatest father who ever existed. Having somebody else, and usually that's like a coach. Yeah, there's one of the reasons why people who are in sports are usually so good, but it could be any kind of a mentor, somebody who teaches you art, somebody who reciprocates the way that you feel about that person, who just, like for me, it was always my senseis. Well, most of my senseis. I had a very close relationship with my senseis, Sometimes it's your priest or whoever in your church, right? Whatever denomination or whatever religion you're in. It's somebody else. It could be an uncle, I guess. Just for Batman, though, it was Alfred. And it shows, and I know, I'm going to sit here and argue that, oh no, it's, look, Batman's crazy, and he technically had two dads. Batman lost his parents at 8 years old. That's life-threatening, right? Mental health threatening. And Alfred goes and points out in this, mind you, it's acknowledged it's just a part of Batman's own memories, recalling what he knows Alfred would say. He points out that this would break what your prowess that you tried to make would break any other human being. I'm going to mention that only because it's the one part that I didn't really like. It's the one part of this whole entire comic book that I didn't like, because any other part of this comic book shows you what Batman is. This part kind of goes to show what we aren't. Look, none of us are ever going to be Batman. None of us are going to get 2 hours of sleep, a night, and eat very little, but yet somehow still gain mass, great muscle mass, be able to lift the peak human and jump and flip and do all sorts of crazy things and be the world's greatest detective and master, 100 languages, whatever, okay? None of us are ever going to be able to do that. But when you dispel that illusion and you're like, Batman is awesome and none of these other jackasses who are reading you could ever be you, it's like, no, I can be Batman. That's one of the things that I think every Batman fan really likes, is the idea that I could be Batman. We all know we can't be Batman. But there's still that idea of, no, I can be Batman. There's no super soldier serum, all right? There's no infinity formula, all right? There's no red sun, preventing me from... No. I can actually be Batman. That's what's so great about it, right? It kind of dispelled that myth. Anyway, I'm going to say this is one of the reasons why I think that this is probably my favorite issue of Batman in the past decade. First off, 2020 is a crappy year, okay? But let's say that this really wrapped it up well, in the sense that very, very few times do I ever read a story that involves Alfred where I'll actually start getting a little misty-eyed. I didn't cry. I'm a grown-ass man with massive amounts of toxic masculinity, mother fathead. I don't cry. No, there's just hatred and anger. I'm joking. I cried. I was a little bit like, oh man, oh wow, because it really gives you the sense of not only who Alfred was, but what he meant to Batman. And the best part is the thing that Bruce says to this memory of him while he's under this drug-induced coma type thing, his body's healing. He says, what does he say? There was a thing that you used to do with the tea, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. Just that thing. Damn it, I really want to spoil it in the worst way. It's one of those things where it's like, it's an I love you without saying I love you. Oh man, go see Extreme's second album with the song More Than Words. Instead of just singing along with it, actually look at the words and recognize what the song means. It's a great song. It's a really great song. And in this case, I feel like that was kind of what was put here. Just, it's that fatherly love, not, that kind of love. There are lots of different kinds of loves. This was such a good comic book because this is the comic that's going to bring the Bat family together. And holy crap. This was just so good. It had the thoughtful stuff, the reflective stuff. It had the father-son moment, It also had the action. So it's going to handle everybody pretty equally. It didn't for a moment get overly wordy, all right? I'm not gonna start throwing shade to previous writer, but I'm gonna say, this had the perfect amount of words in it. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. Gave you just enough to think about, didn't have to overthink anything. Damn it, you want to talk about the perfect balance of a book. James Tynion IV, if the world ever forgets who he is, and he goes to an alternate Earth, and he says, hey, comic book industry, I'd like to write comic books, please, because I'm actually from a different Earth. They'd be like, yeah, you have a resume. I'm from an alternate Earth. I don't have any work history. But if you want a resume, can I just give you this issue? And then you say whether you like it or not. I promise you he's going to get hired. I promise you this man who no one's ever heard of before would get hired just based off of that one issue. Damn, that was good. And I'm out. Enjoy your comic. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Like the video, watch an ad. Class dismissed.